Welcome to a new series. This one is Love Yourself classes, but really it's about not giving up. And this series is not for everybody. This is for my homies. These are for the people that are processing trauma, who are coming out of shitty childhoods or situations, or are really in it. Like, this is for the people who are hurting deeply or have hurt deeply. And it's taken me a long time to really acknowledge, like, oh, that's me. That's me. Like, there's I think I referenced this book before, but hey, everybody, welcome. Called The Tale of Despereaux, and it's written by my girl, Kate DiCamillo. And it tracks the lives of these two girls. One is this unfortunate peasant girl who gets sold by her dad and beaten regularly and is disfigured and has a hard time hearing, and the other is this princess who lost her mom but still lives in the castle and is just like this bright, glorious light, and they find themselves in the dungeon together. And what was meaningful about that story for me was I had the experience of being really beaten down and feeling worthless and coming from a lot of chaos and abuse and pain. And then I also had this skill set and these other attributes and this kind of knowing that allowed me to have like a brighter and opportunities, brighter, beautiful experience as well. And so I'd kind of go between the two, where my insides would be like this, but sometimes like this. And what I've come to do over the last few years is make the princess and the unfortunate girl walk together. And I promised myself, and I promised God, and I promised everybody that if I made it to what I thought was beyond trauma, like if I made it to a ground where I felt like, yes, like the journey is worth it, it can be done, that I would stand over there and shout that the land existed. That way, the people still trucking that direction, lost in the ocean of change, would know that it wasn't for naught, that there's somewhere that they can get to that is real and makes life worth living. And that's a big thing. Like, that's why this isn't for everybody. Not everybody feels like life is such a challenge. And I think that's important to acknowledge. I grew up hearing that it is, and that was the real experience of some of the adults in my life. But that's not how it is for everyone. Of course, there are challenges we all encounter, but there are different ways to experience challenge. I talked about it in a few broadcasts ago about having kind of like the journey, the healing journey is kind of like you find yourself in like a fixer-upper. Like, you got this house, there are leaks in the roof and the foundation is unsound, and you're welcome to put stuff in it and just act like it's not, but you'll continually have these things that go wrong because it's not sound. In a house that is sound, you have maintenance, there's still weather, stuff still happens, but there's a different stability there for you to go off of than the fixer-upper. And so what I'm talking about in sort of the journey is coming to a place of like a sound foundation. So, I listed, and I have it, and I might include it here, kind of like what I started with at a behavior level and where I am now, and the circumstances that generated the first behavior set and the circumstances that I think healed and allowed for the second set. And it's kind of like, I was anorexic and bulimic, and I was really shady, and I didn't have any emotional, intelligence or availability. Like, I had all of these things I didn't know that I had. Not like I kind of knew, I guess, but not in a way that I knew what to do instead or how to do it. And that came from all the pain I didn't know what to do with, and all of the faulty thinking that was instilled in me as a child. You get taught to think and experience the world in different ways. One is like somebody's telling you, like, this is how it is. But more, it's about how the world responds to you and what you derive from that. Oh, dad's doing this. I must not be worthy of love, of space, of whatever. It's not like, and then let's say that dad's doing that, and then he's also telling you he loves you. Like, it really screws with your head. And again, like, this series is not for everybody. This is for the people like me that I promised myself, my sister, my other siblings, like everybody who didn't get like the turnkey house at the beginning. That's like, go into life. Like, sure, you'll encounter things, but like, you have the tools you need inside and the resources outside and the beliefs, etc., to make that ride, you know, manageable or desirable. So it occurred to me that I'm on the other side now, and like, what a blessing. Because again, I didn't know if I would make it. And to me, that really is just having the awareness, the consistent awareness of what am I, of the opportunity to ask the question, what am I doing? And hey, girl. And do you see how simple that is? Like, that's what the land is. It's a presence practice. It's not everything's fixed. It's not everything's known. It's not you have all the resources. It's not any of that. It is just very simply the consistent practice of being willing to be aware of oneself. So you can ask, what am I doing? That is the door to freedom, my friends. It's right there. It does take, or it did for me at least, a lot of reps to be able to hold that in my body. I should probably study the neurology of this, but your nervous system is the key to change. Your body is the key to change. Being in charge of your body is the same as being in charge of your mind. You can do that through breathing. You can do that in trying to relax your nervous system. You will lose, likely like I did. So if you guys are just joining today, this is a new series. It's running alongside the other one, and it's not for everybody, just for the people who have really been through the shit. Like, and what I'm talking about right now is how I promised myself and God and life and everybody and everything that helped me that if I got to the other side of my shit, I'd stand on that land and yell, it exists. This place exists. And so I'm talking about what exists over there. And it's that what I'm talking about develops or fosters the sense of trust in self and trust in life that makes you want to show up, or at least be willing to be curious about what happens if you show up. So again, not everybody has had the experience of not wanting to do it anymore. I have had that. I don't know if I look that way all the time. I think when people slow down and they really look at me, or they really feel me, or whatever, they can tell that I've been through some shit. It has gotten very heavy and very painful, and I've been to the depths, not your depths, not their depths, my own depths, and I can tell you, like, I felt like the heaviness of life in a way that's like, maybe I don't, you know? And it's not a suicide thing, it's just acknowledging, like, it's just being very, like, flat and heavy and being unable or unwilling or just not interested in continuing, not seeing the point. And so, again, like, this series, this content is for people who have had that experience. And I'm just saying, like, just a little pat on the bum. Like, come on, you can do it. Like, don't worry, there's somewhere to go. Like, brush it off, stand up, try again, brush it off, try it, stand up, try again. Because that really, it's like anything, so much is based on practice. If you have been well trained in interpreting and responding to life, then the mistakes you make in living might be less than those who haven't been well trained in how to interpret life or think about ourselves. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Like, let them have their life. That's great. Those people that aren't having that experience, God bless them. Like, that's perfect. You know, like, whatever they're doing is cool. Like, we're having a different experience that yields different gifts, different depths, different compassions. And it doesn't need to have something positive come from it to be what it is. And, like, that's important to acknowledge. Like, it does, from what I can tell, all of the trauma, all of the pain, all of it has a high side that you can kind of like sift off and use, but it doesn't need to. And that's important, because if you think that it does, then you might want to hold on to it or continue that pattern. Like, let it be whatever it is. Like, let it be, honey, let it be, let it rest. And like, we're just going to play it from here. So let's see. I think it's important to acknowledge some of my inspiration here. I think like I've been saying this forever, but one of like the people that made it real for me, and there have been so many people along the path of doing it that have been helpful, and that's why I allow myself to contribute to the conversation in my imperfection, because I presume they're all imperfect as well, and like yet what they said was something that I could use or resonated and helped me kind of like step forward. But Steve Harvey, and I don't look into these people deeply enough, like, you know, I don't know his full story. I know the story that he said that he has, and there are pieces of it that at times have been really powerful for me. And he tells kind of like a story about like when he's broke and living in his car, and he's like, God, if you deliver me, I will tell everybody it was you. And it's an interesting bargain, but it's also a really powerful relationship to allow the possibility that there's something bigger than you, something more intelligent, something stronger, something that loves you, that can help you. And so I do have a very great faith in life and God and the universe and spirit, and I've been exploring faith kind of free for Ollie. Like, I didn't follow a traditional path. I've got books, Christian books on my desk or on my table, Hindu, complex mystical texts, where occult texts, like, a lot of fiction. Like, I'm pretty open-ended. I guess that there's so many more paths than that, but those are the ones that I've taken from thus far. And I think for me, what I've come to is like, I can't know exactly, and yet there does seem to be these like layers of intelligence, whether they're spirit guides or angels or a knowing, like myself before this life or myself after this life or beyond this life. I'm not sure but there seems to be nest layers of intelligence that are accessible and rooting for me, really, which is so cool. And so I do align with the idea of God. It's not the Christian God as I understand it, as in mine seems to be broader. I also seem to like find or feel that there's a strong goddess energy, a little bit, the yin to the yang of the masculine God. And I align with that as well. And I have a very strong relationship with my own, what I perceive to be spirit, which would be what exists beyond my body, my own higher perspective, which I hope and trust is informed by even higher perspectives. And allowing for that faith, allowing for that relationship has helped me get across, this chasm of change, where it's like the old life, like the traumatized life, the sea of change, and this new land over here where you pretty much start fresh. I had a call with an artist yesterday, and I might include this. I recorded something yesterday I didn't post, and I talked about it a little there, but so this might be redundant, but if I post that. But he's brilliant. I love to talk to him, and he was telling me about, every so often I talk to the artists about what they're working on, what they're doing, and any other random questions that come to me. And he's been working on this one piece, and he's been doing kind of like these little detailed painting yets on it. And he works in oil, and that's a commitment. Oil paint takes forever to dry. He finished the piece and was like, no, not quite the feeling I meant. And he painted the whole thing white. You can still see some of the color pushed through. You can still see the brush, like the texture, because oil paint is kind of chunky. Like, that there's more than what you see, but he allowed himself to take that step where it's like everything that was there is like covered. And to me, that's what occurs when you really allow yourself to transcend who you were, who you had to be, and become what's possible for you. And you can't take the paint off the canvas, the stuff that was there before, nor would you want to, because that's what gives you texture and depth, and that's where your colors come from. And yet, if you live from that place, you'll live from that place. And so coming to this side, like, I now feel strong enough and steady enough on this ground to say, like, yeah, I started there. I went there. I saw these things. I felt these things. And they're not me. And they're not you. And they can be transformed. And so if you are on the shore of not knowing, like, if you're in your starting point, and, like, to me, this is, even though the child trauma version of this, or the other kind of trauma version of this journey exists, you know, or what exists, I find like this is also kind of like what humans are doing at large, regardless of the stable ground they started on, because we are seemingly evolving as a consciousness, like our ability to be aware and you know, where things are always changing. And part of this for me also was sort of the spiritual transformation, where I stepped out of all of the cultural conditioning about what is, and came to have my own thoughts and my own experience. And as I was talking about my own relationships with God, or the non-physical. Let's see, did I have something else I wanted to say? Does anyone have anything before I close? Thank you. Is that my thumb? Okay. So I'm going to make myself do this. And I say make myself because, you know, part of wanting to be past, like I said, I didn't really want to have, I think I was ashamed that I had that as my start point. And I kind of wanted to leave that there. When I was talking about the story earlier of like the unfortunate girl and the princess, like I really didn't want to be that or to have that, but I do. And she's beautiful and brilliant in her own right. And so now, again, like I promised myself, and I promised cry. I promised like life and God that I would do this when I could do this. So I've been, you know, producing and sharing free content for years. And part of that is in honor of my sister who didn't have cash, ran out of cash right before she died or killed herself. And part of it is like, that just feels, you know, I feel like I'm blessed to be a recipient of the assistance that I've had, both non-physical and physical, and that I should pass that on. Not everyone has had those advantages. And in the spirit of us all being here together, like I am like happy to do my part. I also do work with clients one-to-one. That is my primary business. It's kind of taking this material and applying it more specifically. I also offer some energy work as part of that, and some guidance and structure to kind of further this path along, or support this path along. But let's see what else. Where was I going? Oh yeah, the free content. I've got oodles of it. You're welcome to ask questions. I ask that you, if as best you can, do it, you know, in the comments, in case somebody else might receive value from it as well. But if it's something that's really private and you need feedback on, you can send me a message. Anything else today? Yes. What else today? Thank you. At different times in my journey, I've been quite a shithead. I'm sorry to say I've administered my share of pain and thoughtlessness. And I'm very grateful for all the grace that people have offered me as I've come to work those things out. And just in general, the support to practice enough to feel like I have something to offer. So, anything else today? No, that's it. Thank you so much for coming. Stay tuned for the series. Oh yeah, I was saying, like, I'm going to make myself do this. If there's a specific question that you have that you wanted to see, like, in a content, like in a video format, you can send that to me as well. Okay, everybody have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for coming.